Chapter 3985. Then what's the situation now? Li Yunyu cursed inwardly. If he had known that the guy in front of him was so strong, he would have been prepared. He would not have met the enemy half-heartedly and suffered such a huge loss. I don't know how his strength suddenly became so strong. When I met him, he was only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. What kind of joke is this? Li Yunyu no longer believed Xiao Nan's words. A year ago, he was still at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. A year later, he actually broke through to the 2nd level of the Star Radiance Realm. Are you dreaming? Anyone with a brain would know that this kind of thing was impossible. Xiao Nan's expression was a little awkward. In fact, if he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed that such a thing could happen. However, he clearly remembered that Bewitching and the others were at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. Therefore, when he met them, he was still a little afraid. He really could not understand how Bewitching and the other strength had increased so much in such a short period of time. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared in front of Xiao Nan. It's time to solve the problem that we couldn't solve back then. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold as her gaze fell on Xiao Nan. Xiao Nan and Gao Hanchun were jackals of the same tribe. They could not solve it the last time, so this time they would not let him go. Xiao Nan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. From her voice, he was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Bei. It's you. I remember your voice. Among the 4 of them, he had the deepest impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. Originally, it was very easy to teach the 4 of them a lesson. However, it was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills that Master Mo thought highly of her that led to the things that happened later. He could only run away with his tail between his legs. That's right, it's me. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. In the next moment, her attack directly attacked Xiao Nan. Xing Meng rank 1 strength exploded forth, and following her aura, Xiao Nan's eyes couldn't help but flash with a thick sense of panic. He was only at the 8th level of the Purple Realm. Against Bailey Hongzhuang, who was at the 1st level of the Star Realm, he had no chance of winning. Therefore, when Bailey Hongzhuang attacked him, he could only quickly turn around and flee. In his mind, he kept thinking about how Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had increased so much. It was simply too shocking. Chung Terui, save me. Xiao Nan hurriedly shouted. The chi behind him was pressing straight towards him. He felt as if the skin on his back was about to be cut open. He could lose his life at any time. After hearing Xiao Nan's cry for help, Chung Tui quickly rushed over. However, just as Chung Tui was about to reach Xiao Nan, Mo Yunjue had already blocked his path. If you want to save him, you'd better take care of yourself first. Chung Tui looked at Mo Yunjue in front of him and had a bad feeling in his heart. The other party had only sent out 2 cultivators, but they were both Xing Meng realm cultivators. No one knew how many Xing Meng realm cultivators there were in this group. He began to feel that their previous decision was too hasty. Chapter 3986. Following Mo Yunjue's display of strength at the 2nd level of the Starlight Stage, Li Yunyu and the rest's faces turned extremely ugly. Originally, when they saw that the other party only had 13 people, while they had 20, they thought that they should have an absolute advantage. However, they never imagined that the other party, who they thought was a complete newbie, would actually be an Astral Radiance realm expert, catching them off guard. Even in their group, there were only 3 Starlight realm cultivators. How could they not be shocked? Looks like we've really underestimated you. Chung Terui looked coldly at Mo Yunjue. The appearance of this man in front of him made him feel an inexplicable pressure, causing him to feel extremely unhappy. Mo Yunjue's face was expressionless, his expression cold. You can slowly regret it when you're in hell. Just as he finished speaking, Mo Yunjue's attack came stealthily. Every move was ruthless, aiming straight for the opponent's vital points. Facing Mo Yunjue's attack, Chung Tui broke out in cold sweat. He completely did not expect that this young man in front of him would use all his killing moves. If he was slightly careless, he would be hit in his vital points, causing him to have no choice but to concentrate fully on defending. He did not want to lose his life just like that. All of you, support Xiao Nan. Li Yunyu was currently busy fighting with Bewitching. When he saw Xiao Nan being chased by Bailey Hongzhuang, he hurriedly called out for the other practitioners in the team. The other practitioners were originally shocked by the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. However, after Li Yunyu's reminder, they all reacted and immediately rushed to help Xiao Nan. Currently, their greatest advantage was that they had more people than the opponent. Naturally, they could not let the opponent take advantage of this opportunity to reduce their numbers. However, just as the other cultivators took action, Ren Ziheng and the rest did not stay idle. They immediately took action and stopped the other cultivators. Dying, Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly. She pushed her speed to the limit and struck Xiao Nan's back with her palm. Xiao Nan only felt a strong gust of wind behind him. That ferocious force caused his scalp to go numb. In the next moment, he felt himself being hit by a heavy blow. Following that, his entire body flew forward uncontrollably. An intense pain came from her back. Her internal organs seemed to have shifted under this attack. Xiao Nan was completely out of control. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Pooh! Xiao Nan lay on the ground, unable to get up for a moment. Just as he was trying to get up, Bailey Hongzhuang stepped on his back. Don't even think about getting up. You will never be able to stand up again in this lifetime, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Xiao Nan's cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Purple Realm. If it had been in the past, it would have been very difficult for her to deal with him. But now that she was a cultivator of the Astral Realm, it was not difficult for her to deal with him. Since she had said that she wanted to take his life, she naturally would not give him any chance to live. Xiao Nan's expression was extremely ugly. He understood how powerful this attack was. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. If this continued, he would definitely lose his little life here. In the next moment, he immediately took out a pill from his heaven-earth bag and wanted to feed himself. Chapter 39:87. Xiao Nan let out a blood-curdling scream. The medicinal pill was directly crushed into the ground, and the back of his hand was also burning with pain. Don't you go too far. Xiao Nan glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, the fury in his eyes almost shooting out. His intense hatred was so intense that he wanted nothing more than to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. However, in the face of Xiao Nan's curses, Bailey Hongzhuang only smiled coldly. I'm bullying you. What can you do about it? Xiao Nan was slightly stunned. Just as he was about to explode, he realized that Li Yunyu and Cheng Terui had been stopped by Di Beichun and Mo Yunjue. The others were still some distance away from him. Now that he was in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no way for him to retaliate. It could be said that his life was completely in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. For a moment, he lost all his temper. Were you all pretending to be strong before this? Xiao Nan could not help but ask. He really could not understand. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. How could they have improved so much in such a short period of time? This completely went against everyone's understanding. No. Then what's going on? What do you mean what's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I'm improving while cultivating. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Nan was extremely depressed. This answer was as good as not answering at all. This was simply impossible. Everyone knew that at their level, every increase in level required a lot of effort. What more to complete the leap from the Purple Realm to the Starry Sky Realm? Many people were stuck at this bottleneck and were unable to break through. Bailey Hongzhuang had just casually said that they had broken through while cultivating. Was she trying to anger them to death? Woman, you're full of nonsense, Xiao Nan said angrily. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly stomped her right foot and fiercely stomped on his chest. Xiao Nan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Since you talk so much, I'll just send you to heaven. The flowing light sword suddenly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, and she stabbed at Xiao Nan without hesitation. Help! Xiao Nan shouted, feeling as if his whole body was suffocating. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so merciless. How dare you? Li Yunyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily. If they were killed by Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as they met, where would they put their faces? Hearing Li Yunyo's words, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped and looked at Li Yunyo. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and said, "Then you have to see clearly whether I dare or not." Just as she spoke, the flowing light sword pierced mercilessly into Xiao Nan's chest. Xiao Nan's eyes widened as he stared dazedly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Clearly, even at the moment of his death, he could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so decisive. "You!" Li Yunyu glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, unable to control his anger. "Stop spouting nonsense. Since you want to kill us, you should naturally be prepared to be killed as well. Xiao Anan is only going down to wait for you. Later on, you'll all join him one by one." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. Her figure flashed, and she immediately turned towards the other cultivators from the Crimson Moon sect. "End this quickly. Don't let any of them off," Di Beichun suddenly exclaimed. Chapter 3988. Hearing Di Beichun's words, everyone present was stunned. Li Yunyu looked at Di Beichun in astonishment. He didn't expect Di Beichun to be so ruthless, wanting to take all their lives the moment he made his move. "Don't leave a single one alive." Mo Yunjue's deep, black eyes flashed with a cold light as he reminded them once again. Originally, Ren Ziheng and the rest didn't understand why Di Beichun suddenly made such a decision. However, after hearing Mo Yunjue's words, they understood after thinking about it carefully. Now, they had to kill the other party without a doubt. Otherwise, if the other party leaked this news, they would be in trouble in the future. Thinking of this, everyone's gaze sharpened. Since there was no way out, they could only fight with their lives on the line. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi also joined the battle. Although their strength couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, they weren't weak either. They could still deal with the other party's cultivators. Seeing the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang's group, Li Yunyu and the rest's expressions turned ugly. They didn't expect the other party to want them to kill them all in one fell swoop. Di Beichun's attacks became increasingly fierce, oppressing Li Yunyu to the point that he couldn't breathe. Li Yunyu was also extremely depressed. Clearly, he and Di Beichun were both Star Rays Level 2 cultivators. However, he was constantly being suppressed by Di Beichun. It was very difficult for him to even counterattack. He could only barely cope with Di Beichun's attacks. One must know that his battle strength was usually very strong among Star Rays Level 2 cultivators. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. It could be seen that Di Beichun's battle strength was indeed very abnormal. His gaze shifted slightly. He had originally hoped that Cheng Terui could kill Mo Yunjue. This way, the pressure on him would be reduced by a lot. As long as he could kill the other party's Star Rays Level 2 cultivators, the outcome of this battle would be decided. However, when he looked at Cheng Terui, he realized that Cheng Terui's condition wasn't any better than his. Both of them could only passively fight, unable to pose any threat to the other party. Li Yunyu cursed in his heart. If this continued, they would really die here. Di Beichun also noticed that Li Yunyu was distracted, and a sneer appeared in his eyes. Wasn't he courting death by being distracted at a time like this? Bang! Di Beichun fainted and then punched Li Yunyu in the chest. Li Yunyu hurriedly retreated a few steps, but Di Beichun did not intend to give his opponent any chance to breathe after a successful attack. He immediately attacked the same spot on Li Yunyu's body, one punch after another. His movements were as fast as lightning, and he continuously landed on the same spot. Li Yunyu could only feel an intense pain coming from his chest. He couldn't tell how many punches Di Beichun had landed on him. When Di Beichun released his grip, he could no longer control his body to continue standing. His entire body fell to the ground with a loud bang, and blood flowed out from the corner of his lips. Senior Brother Li, the Crimson Moon sect's cultivators couldn't help but exclaim. Li Yunyu was the strongest leader in their team. They never thought that he would be beaten down by the other party just like that. When they looked at Di Beichun again, their eyes flashed with a strong sense of fear. Chapter 3989. It turned out that this Bewitching was not Xiaobai at all, but a cultivator with abnormally strong abilities. When Ren Ziheng said that Bewitching was the leader of their team, he was not trying to scare them, but it was all the truth. Senior brother Li, how are you? Chengtri looked at Li Yunyu worriedly. Nothing must happen to Li Yunyu. If Li Yunyu fell, then they were destined to fail. Li Yunyu forcefully swallowed the blood between his lips and teeth. His face was pale, but his gaze was sharp. I really underestimated you. Bewitching's appearance was too deceiving. He was so young and had such outstanding looks. Who would have thought that he would be so powerful? You overestimated yourself. Bewitching's gaze was indifferent. He looked at Li Yunyu, who was holding on, with a mocking expression. Others might not know how serious Li Yunyu's injuries were, but he knew very well. Li Yunyu was already severely injured and was no longer his match. If you have the time to worry about your senior brother Li, why don't you worry about yourself instead? As soon as he finished speaking, Imo Yunjue kicked Cheng Terui's body. Boom! Cheng Terui's body fell heavily to the ground. He immediately tried to get up, but Imo Yunjue did not give Cheng Terui a chance to refute. He immediately stabbed his sword. In your next life, before you rob someone, you have to be careful. You have to consider whether you have the ability to do so. Chi! The sound of the sword piercing into the body was heard. Imo Yunjue coldly withdrew his sword, leaving behind a trail of blood. Cheng Terui's body twitched, and he stared straight at Imo Yunjue. Clearly, he did not expect his life to end like this, without any chance to recover. At the same time, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang also ended the lives of the opposing Astral Radiance cultivators. If the opponent's cultivation was higher than theirs, they might be able to hold on for a while longer. But if the opponent's cultivation was the same as theirs, and they had the blood chi field and the killing chi field, there was only one ending for the opponent: defeat. The Crimson Moon sect had a greater number of cultivators, and they had the upper hand in the battle. Therefore, even though Ziren and the others were fighting with all their might, they could only remain in a stalemate. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang understood in her heart. The Penglai Palace was indeed the strongest force on the Penglai Island. The overall combat power of the cultivators was also stronger than that of the Crimson Moon sect. That was why they were able to fight evenly without having the upper hand. Compared to the calmness of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect were ashen. In the blink of an eye, the strongest fighting force in their team had been dealt with. The result of this battle was obvious. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but look at each other, no longer in the mood to continue fighting. Stop them. They're trying to escape. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately saw through their thoughts and immediately reminded them. Once they let these people go, there was no telling what kind of trouble they would cause in the future. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang said this, the cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect scattered in all directions. At a time like this, the only way to save their own lives was to split up and run. Chapter 3990. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two didn't stay idle either. They immediately chased after them. Not long after, everyone returned to their original place, holding the Qinkuan bags they had just obtained. Looking at the situation, there should be no fish that escaped the net. Bewitching's face showed a trace of smile. His already handsome face was even more handsome. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Of course, since we have already said that we won't leave anyone alive, we naturally won't give them any chance to escape. Li Yunyu and the others are seeking their own deaths. We have already warned them before, but they didn't believe us. Now, they have lost their lives here. Rinzime spread out her hands, looking helpless and mocking. Overestimating one's own strength would only lead to such an ending. Serves them right. Shangguan Yingying curled her lips. They thought they were the predators, but they didn't expect that they would be the prey in the end. They can't blame anyone but themselves for being too greedy. They chose their own path. We're just protecting ourselves. Ren Ziheng smiled faintly. Bewitching nodded. We can't mention about this prescription. Once it is heard by someone with ulterior motives, it will be very disadvantageous for us. Indeed, we were too careless before. We almost caused big trouble, A.O. Lingxiao sighed. A.O. Lingxiao sighed. If it weren't for the fact that their team's strength was relatively strong, the situation would have been terrible if Li Yunyu and the others had succeeded. Learning from their mistakes, everyone no longer brought up the matter of the prescription. Previously, the matter with Li Yunyu and the others had already made them wary. If they were targeted by a stronger team, their situation would be dangerous. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were focused on dealing with the skeleton army. Every time the skeleton army appeared, they would accumulate points while picking the black flowers. Although the black flowers were dazzling and didn't occupy a lot of points, they needed to make a large number of them. Therefore, they needed a lot of points. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked in the depths for several days and still didn't find anything that could cause the skeleton to mutate. Fortunately, the strength of their team was indeed not weak. Therefore, even if they encountered the skeleton army, they could often escape unscathed. Although injuries were inevitable, overall, there were no losses. Unknowingly, half a month had passed, and it was finally time for the teleportation array to be activated. We could finally go back. Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but sigh. When they had first come here, their team had been full. He hadn't expected that only the 4 of them would be left. One could imagine how emotional he felt. I've been busy for so many days this year. It's indeed time to go back and have a good rest. Ren Ziheng smiled faintly. I'm sure that after we return, Junior Sister Bailey will tell the Home Master and Master Long about the healing medicine. They will definitely be very happy. A smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. After half a month of research, she had successfully developed the healing medicine. There would not be any other problems. In that case, another incredible thing will happen to our Penglai Palace. In the future, this news will surely resound throughout the entire Penglai Island. Who knows how many forces will be envious of us? Chu Jinfeng said with a smile. Chapter 3991. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to Penglai Palace, Xiao Wenyu and the other 3 bid farewell to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Ren Ziheng, Junior Brother D, will head back first. Xiao Wenyu cupped his hands. Thank you for your help this time. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to return safely. Senior Brother Xiao, you've said thank you many times. We all understand. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Hearing this, Xiao Wenyu also chuckled. Haha, that's true. See you next time. Goodbye. After Xiao Wenyu left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went directly to the restaurant to have a big meal. After eating dry rations for so many days in a row, they just wanted to reward themselves. Eating the steaming hot meal again, everyone felt a burst of joy. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went to Long Yanwei's residence. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived, they only saw Long Yanwei and did not see Zihua. A hint of surprise appeared in Wen Xiren's eyes. It's rare that Instructor E isn't here today. Hearing this, Long Yanwei could not help but chuckle. Do you think Zihua is so free every day? It's just that every time you come, you have something to do, so he's always here. However, if he knew that you're coming today, he might come too. In that case, Instructor E still pays a lot of attention to us. You're all in the limelight of Penglai Palace. It's not strange to receive such attention. Long Yanwei smiled faintly. Looking at you guys, you must have gained quite a lot from the training ground this time. Di Beichen and the others looked at each other and nodded. Not bad. Then why are you looking for me today? Long Yanwei looked at Di Beichen and the others curiously. Then his gaze fell on Mo. We're here to see how Yue's contract beast is growing now. That's one thing. Mo Yunjue said. Just one thing? Long Yanwei raised his eyebrows slightly, and a hint of doubt appeared in his eyes. What else? At this moment, Izihua's voice sounded from outside the house. Yanwei, I heard that your proud disciples are also here. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but chuckle. Sure enough, Izihua paid them a lot of attention and rushed over as soon as he heard the news. Seeing Izihua appear, Long Yanwei said, "You came at the right time. They were just talking about not seeing you today." "I see." Izihua's figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. "I don't need to guess. I know that it must be Wen Ziren who said that, right? You know it. Of course." Now, Long Yanwei's expression turned serious. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came to look for him, something important must have happened. Di Beichun smiled faintly. "Master Long, we're here to tell you a piece of good news." "Oh," Long Yanwei was surprised. "What good news?" Zihua's face also showed curiosity. "Didn't you just come back from the training ground? What good news can you bring?" Chapter 3992. Looking at the actions of Di Beichun and the others, Long Yanwei and Izihua could not help but turn their gazes towards Bailey Hongzhuang. They were extremely curious. "I've already successfully developed a medicine that can restrain the dark force." Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips parted slightly as she revealed the good news with a smile on her lips. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Long Yanwei and Izihua could not help but be slightly stunned. "Didn't you already develop it before?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "Previously, it only had a restraining effect. This time, it completely restrains the dark force." As soon as these words were spoken, Long Yanwei and Zihua's pupils instantly dilated as they stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. It was as if they could not believe it. "What did you say?" Zihua raised his voice and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. "You've developed a medicine that can completely restrain the dark force." "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded affirmatively. "How did you manage to develop it? Didn't you always say that you were still lacking a medicinal catalyst?" Long Yanwei could not help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang had previously mentioned this matter, and he had also heard the same thing from the 100 Flowers Gate. However, not only had the 100 Flowers Gate not found the medicinal catalyst, they had not even thought of a way to restrain it. Clearly, there was a huge gap between their progress and Bailey Hongzhuang's. In fact, he felt that it was already very difficult for Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to create this healing medicine with a restraining effect. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to create a healing medicine that could completely restrain the dark force. However, what Bailey Hongzhuang said at this moment was definitely not a lie. He was also extremely shocked in his heart. "I happened to find this medicinal catalyst when I went to the training grounds this time. After a period of research, I found that the medicinal catalyst was not wrong. Coupled with the success of my previous research, I've successfully concocted a healing medicine that can completely restrain the dark force." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said. Hearing this, Izihua and Long Yanwei's eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're really a genius. In order to find a way to restrain the dark force, the entire Penglai Island spent a lot of effort, but there was no progress. They did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to find a way not long after she arrived. This medicine was of great significance to them." Long Yanwei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of emotion. He had never thought that he would be able to recruit such a genius on a whim. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's results, the conditions he offered to recruit her were nothing at all. Back then, he had felt that he had suffered a loss. Now, it seemed that he had profited greatly. Long Yanwei, Yanwei's. He said Yanwei. Long Yanwei thought about it. He knew the significance of this prescription for Penglai Palace and even the entire Penglai Island. If Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to give this prescription to Penglai Palace, then Penglai Palace's first position would be unshakable. At the same time, he also knew that such an approach was somewhat difficult. It was really not worth it to hand over such a treasure. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. "Master Long, since I've come to tell you, I'm naturally willing." Chapter 3993. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Long Yanwei and Izihua couldn't help but look at each other. Their eyes flashed with a light of disbelief. They originally thought that it would be very difficult for Bailey Hongzhuang to hand over the prescription, but after all, there was an example last time. They felt that it might be possible. They really didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to agree so easily. Happiness came too suddenly, making them somewhat unable to believe it. Are you really willing to hand over the prescription to Penglai Palace? Long Yanwei couldn't help but ask again, just to confirm Bailey Hongzhuang's answer. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, I came here to hand over the prescription to you. In this way, Penglai Palace can also speed up the production of a medicine that can completely suppress the dark power. It will be very helpful to everyone. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmative answer, Long Yanwei and Yizihua couldn't help but reveal ecstatic smiles on their faces. If it was someone else who told them that they had developed a medicine that could completely suppress the dark power, they might not believe it. However, this person was Bailey Hongzhuang, so they wouldn't doubt it. Because Bailey Hongzhuang did have this ability. Bailey Hongzhuang, it's great that you are willing to hand over the prescription to us. I think the palace master will be very happy after hearing this news. Long Yanwei said with a smile. Yizihua couldn't help but say, the entire Penglai Palace and even Penglai Island will benefit from your actions. Now, you have really become a great person of Penglai Island. When Bailey Hongzhuang told them the prescription, they were very surprised. Now that they knew that the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang did this was not for her own benefit, but to help everyone, he couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang in a new light. At Bailey Hongzhuang's age, there were very few people who could have such awareness. However, as she said, developing a medicine that could completely suppress the dark power was of great significance to the entire Penglai Island. This meant that they wouldn't have such a large number of casualties in the future. Many practitioners wouldn't be killed by some small injuries. Their power to deal with the skeleton army would also increase. Instructor E is too kind. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm really curious how you found a catalyst. Long Yanwei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. I know that the people of Hundred Flowers Gate have searched the training ground for so long, but they couldn't find the catalyst. It's only your second time, but you found it. It's amazing that you can find it. Speaking of this, I have to say that Hongzhuang's eyesight is really good. None of us thought that the catalyst was actually in the skeleton army. When Xiren couldn't help but say. When these words came out, Long Yanwei and Yizihua couldn't help but be stunned. Their faces were filled with astonishment. What? The catalyst is actually in the skeleton army? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. The catalyst is a kind of black flower. It's in the skeleton army, and it's very difficult to be noticed. I just happened to find its existence. So that's how it is. Long Yanwei sighed. No wonder everyone spent so much time and still couldn't find a catalyst. It turns out that it was actually with the skeleton army. That's why everyone ignored it. Chapter 3994. Bailey Hongzhuang, you really are amazing. You were able to find a catalyst that so many people from the Hundred Flowers Hall failed to find with such ease. If the members of the Hundred Flowers Hall found out about this, they would probably die of anger. Yizihua shook his head and sighed. Back then, the Hundred Flowers Hall had always firmly believed that the catalyst was in the training grounds. Unfortunately, not a single blade of grass grew in the training grounds, so they were unable to find the catalyst at all. As a result, they gradually gave up on that idea during this period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I searched for a very long time in the training grounds as well, but I was unable to find it. However, I accidentally noticed that there were actually plants growing in the skeleton army, and I was extremely surprised as well. In reality, if she hadn't coincidentally noticed it from that angle, she probably wouldn't have known when she would have found a catalyst. It could only be said that the catalyst was hidden too well. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang passed the prescription to Long Yanwei and said, Lord Long, give this prescription to the hall master. The earlier you make it, the earlier it'll be effective. Long Yanwei's eyes lit up when he received Bailey Hongzhuang's prescription, and he immediately nodded. All right, Bailey Hongzhuang, give this prescription to the hall master. He definitely won't mistreat you. Zihua smiled. Even though Bai Tsangming often joked with them, he knew very well that Bai Tsangming was an extremely fair person and would definitely not mistreat anyone. Not to mention, this prescription was extremely important to the entire Penglai Palace. It was simply a huge help to Bai Tsangming. I'm sure the hall master will definitely be extremely happy once he finds out. Long Yanwei smiled faintly. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were chatting, a voice suddenly rang out from outside the room. I'll definitely be extremely happy once I find out what is. Long Yanwei and the others couldn't help but look at each other when they heard that, and a wisp of a smile appeared on their faces. Speak of the devil, and he'll appear. After that, Bai Tsangming's figure appeared before everyone's eyes. Bai Tsangming was a little surprised when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. So it's Bailey Hongzhuang. What are you guys talking about that makes me happy? Palace Master, what we said is not wrong. If you knew, you would definitely be very happy. Zihua raised his eyebrows, keeping him in suspense. Oh, Bai Tsangming was surprised. That makes me curious. What exactly is it? In the next moment, Long Yanwei handed the prescription to Bai Tsangming. You have to reward Bailey Hongzhuang well this time. Bai Tsangming took the prescription doubtfully. After looking at it carefully, he was still a little confused. This is a prescription. What kind of prescription? It's a prescription that completely restrains the power of darkness, Long Yanwei explained. Bai Tsangming could not help but be stunned when he heard this. He stared at Long Yanwei in shock, and then his gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. You've developed a medicinal formula that completely restrains the energy of darkness? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, Bai Tsangming could not help but widen his eyes. Did I hear wrongly? Is it really completely restraining the energy of darkness? I've already tested it. It really can completely restrain the energy of darkness. If you don't believe me, you can test it yourself. Bai Tsangming returned to his senses and shook his head. There's no need. I believe you. Chapter 30-995. How did you do it? This is simply too shocking. Bai Tsangming revealed a joyful smile. To him and the entire Penglai Palace, this was something worth celebrating. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a chinquan bag and said, "This is the guiding herb. The medicine that I concocted previously could not completely restrain it, because I lacked the guiding herb. Now that the guiding herb has been found, it will naturally be able to completely restrain it." I see. Bai Tsangming came to a realization and took out a black flower from the chinquan bag. This is the guiding herb? The flower is actually black. How rare. This should be a flower unique to the training ground. I have never seen any records related to it in any medical books. However, I have already studied it, and this flower does not have any side effects. It seems to be born to restrain the power of darkness, and the ingredients inside are only effective against the power of darkness. Bai Tsangming could not hide his joy. He immediately patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said joyfully, "Bailey Hongzhuang, you have really done a great service this time." "Palace Master, you flatter me." Bai Tsangming waved his hand. "I am speaking the truth. You are a great contributor to the Penglai Palace. Tell me, no matter what the reward is, I will satisfy you." "Oh right, after this medicine is produced, your share will be increased by another 10%. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "Palace Master, I do not need anything now. I'm already very happy to be able to help the sect." Currently, she did not lack anything. Her only hope was to increase her strength. However, she had to rely on herself for this, so she did not want anything. Bai Tsangming's gaze could not help but change when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. A feeling of regret silently lingered in his heart. On Penglai Island, almost everyone only cared about their own interests. From the first time Bailey Hongzhuang gave him the prescription for the healing medicine, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was not someone who would ask for an exorbitant price. Now that he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang did not want anything, he felt even more guilty. People were often like this. The more the other party forced you, the more unwilling you were to give. On the contrary, if the other party didn't want anything, you would want to give them more. How can that do? Bai Zongming shook his head. You've made such a great contribution, so how can you not want anything? How about this? I have a lot of things in my treasury. You can go there and pick one. No matter what you like, I'll reward you. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other when they heard the words treasury. They never imagined that Bai Zongming actually had his own treasury. Compared to the bewilderment of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua's faces were filled with astonishment. Usually, Bai Zongming cared the most about his treasury, and even they did not know exactly what treasures were inside. They never imagined that he would actually allow Bailey Hongzhuang to casually choose one. This was truly rare. Bailey Hongzhuang, there are many treasures in the Palace Master's treasury. Why aren't you thanking the Palace Master? Long Yanwei reminded. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately bowed when she heard that. Thank you, Palace Master. The Palace Master chuckled. This is what you deserve. Palace Master, we've plucked many black flowers this time. I'm sure that they can be used to create many medicines. These black flowers are all here. Chapter 3996. Thank you for your hard work this time. Bai Zongming was all smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had given him a huge surprise. We have another matter to report this time. Bewitching's handsome face had a serious and solemn expression. Compared to the joy of developing the medicine, this matter made their mood very heavy. Seeing the sudden change in Bewitching's expression, Bai Zongming and the rest could not help but become serious as well. What is it? When we were training this time, we discovered that the skeleton soldiers had also begun to evolve. Previously, we only discovered that one lich had evolved. This time, not only did all the liches evolve, but even the skeleton soldiers evolved as well. According to our judgment, if this continues, I'm afraid that even the ordinary skeleton army will begin to evolve. Bai Zongming furrowed his brows. We also received some news about this. The skeleton army's sudden increase in strength has a huge impact on us. What changes did you discover in the skeleton army this time? Their combat power has become stronger, and they can use martial skills. It's more difficult to deal with them. If the skeleton army also evolves, I'm afraid that we can no longer follow our previous judgment and choose where to train in the training ground. Instead, we'll have to go to a place further away. Otherwise, once we encounter the evolved skeleton army, it's very likely that we'll suffer a crushing defeat, Bewitching said in a deep voice. How strange. The skeleton army has not made any movements for so many years. Why did they suddenly evolve now? Long Yanwei's eyes flickered with confusion. This was not good news for them. Originally, with the skeleton army's strength, it was already very difficult for them to eliminate it. Now that their strength had increased greatly due to the evolution, the difficulty of dealing with it had increased greatly. They originally thought that after Bailey Hongzhuang developed the medicine that could completely restrain the power of darkness, their efficiency in dealing with it would increase by a lot. They did not expect the skeleton army to also improve. They were really helpless. In my opinion, something must have happened in this training ground. Bai Zongming's eyes turned gloomy. The skeleton army would not evolve for no reason. There must be an opportunity. It seems that we need to take this matter seriously. If there really was a special opportunity, they had to find a way to solve it. Otherwise, if the skeleton army continued to evolve, they would be very passive. That's what we thought as well. That's why we didn't see anything special when we were in the training grounds. Deep Beichan said slowly. From the looks of it, I'm afraid that only the deepest part of the training ground is possible. Hearing this, Bai Zongming glanced at Di Beichun and the others with praise. You're all very smart. I will send someone to investigate, starting from the deepest part. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they heard Bai Zongming's decision. Since the Hall Master had sent someone to investigate, the possibility of finding the item was very high. They could rest assured. If he could find and destroy that thing as soon as possible, he could at least stop the skeleton army from evolving. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left Long Yanwei's residence. They had achieved their objective, and Bai Songming had informed them that they would head to his treasury in 2 days to select treasures. Chapter 3997. They all understood that the most important thing for Bai Songming now was to produce the healing medicine. At the same time, he sent people to investigate the changes in the training grounds. The impact of this matter was too great. It was probably not just a matter of Penglai Palace. All the forces on Penglai Island who were going to train needed to know about this matter. In front of the skeleton army, they were all allies and would definitely stand on the same side. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went to the cultivation area to cultivate. For several days in a row, they were in a high-intensity battle. They were not in a hurry to go to the place to gain experience. Cultivating well could actually promote the progress of their cultivation. The next day, the news that Bailey Hongzhuang had developed a medicine that could completely restrain the power of darkness spread throughout the inner palace of Penglai. For a time, everyone was shocked. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately attracted everyone's attention wherever she went. This Bailey Hongzhuang is too amazing, isn't she? She developed the medicine not long ago. This time, she just returned to Penglai Palace and made a medicine that could completely restrain the power of darkness. How did she do it? I have no choice but to be convinced by her. Among all the doctors on Penglai Island, I admire Bailey Hongzhuang. There are so many doctors and alchemists in Hundred Flowers Gate, but none of them can make it. Bailey Hongzhuang made it so easily. The gap between the two can be imagined. I now have a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If they can give the prescription to the palace master, we will all benefit. It was unknown who said this, but then many cultivators nodded. This was also what they thought. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others first joined Penglai Palace, they were envied and hated because they were too high profile and treated too well. Moreover, they caused such a big commotion back then. Most people did not have a good impression of them, and only felt that Master Long and the others were too biased. However, now that Bailey Hongzhuang had made a healing medicine for everyone to benefit from, everyone changed their view of her. That was because people with strength would always receive extraordinary treatment. At least, the practitioners of the entire Penglai Palace were using the healing medicine developed by Bailey Hongzhuang. In this case, if someone still said something bad about Bailey Hongzhuang, it would be too much. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly enjoyed treatment in Penglai Palace that she had never enjoyed before. When she went to the restaurant outside to have her meal, there were actually many cultivators who greeted her in a friendly manner. "Junior Sister Bailey, let's go out for a meal. Junior Sister Bailey, you're really amazing. I really admire you. Junior Sister Bailey, let's form a team together next time." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the complete change in everyone's attitude and was secretly surprised. This change was so great that even she felt it was a little unbelievable. "Hongzhuang, you're now completely popular in Penglai Palace, and you're someone that everyone admires." A smile of admiration appeared on Wenziren's face. In the past, when we were walking on the road, most of the people who looked at us were not happy. Now, when we walk on the road, all the people we see show us a friendly look. Chapter 3998. Even in the past, no one would be so blind as to cause trouble for us, Mo Yunjue said calmly. Shangguan Yingying was slightly taken aback when she heard this, but she immediately reacted. Indeed, with their team's current strength, no one would be so blind as to cause trouble for them. Otherwise, wouldn't they be looking for trouble? Even so, it doesn't feel good to be hated by others all the time. Shangguan Yingying shrugged. She still preferred to be accepted by everyone. However, when she turned to look at Mo Yunjue, she thought, Mo Yunjue probably did not feel that way. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were cultivating in the cultivation area when Rin Ziheng and the others suddenly came looking for them. "Senior Brother Run, why have you suddenly come looking for us? Could it be that something has happened? When Xiren looked curiously at Ren Ziheng and the others. They had previously agreed to go to the training grounds in 7 days. It was clearly not time yet. I've come here to tell you a piece of news. Ren Ziheng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and slowly said, "Today, people from the 100 Flowers Order and the Crimson Moon sect have come. They are now in a meeting with the Hall Master. Teacher, he has asked me to tell you that the 100 Flowers Order and the Crimson Moon sect must have heard about the news of junior sister Bailey successfully developing the medicine. They have specifically asked to see you." Hearing this, everyone's gaze fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. It was normal for such a shocking piece of news to attract people from the other 2 great organizations. However, the 2 great organizations wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang. Could it be that they wanted to poach her? What did the Hall Master say? Bewitching asked. The people from the 100 Flowers Order and the Crimson Moon sect have specially come. The Hall Master naturally had to give him face and had no choice but to agree. Ren Ziheng felt helpless. Teacher, he has asked me to inform you that junior sister Bailey will have to go after their meeting. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand. If that's the case, why don't we go to Master Long's place first? Di Beichun suggested. Presumably, Long Yanwei would also be going over later. It would be better to go with Hongzhuang at that time. That's for the best, Ren Ziheng said with a smile. Do you guys think that the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect suddenly came here to recruit Hongzhuang? Although the Palace Master will also sell the medicine to other forces after obtaining the prescription, the profit from this is not small. If they can obtain the prescription themselves, it will be much more convenient. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a bright light. Bailey Hongzhuang was very popular now. Presumably, any force would have such a plan. That should only be one of the reasons. The other reason is the evolution of the skeleton army that we mentioned. I'm sure the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect are very concerned about it, so they've come to discuss it with us, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Deep Beichen nodded slightly. Indeed, this matter is very important. It's to be expected that they would have such a reaction. I only hope that the 3 great organizations can find this thing as soon as possible. Otherwise, as time passes, the problem will only get bigger and bigger. Ren Ziheng sighed. As he spoke, he suddenly looked curiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Junior sister Bailey, if the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect are willing to spend a lot of money to recruit you, will you go? Chapter 30:999. The Penglai Palace was the strongest force on Penglai Island. Naturally, the Crimson Moon sect could not be compared to it. Moreover, the 100 Flowers Gate had once invited her to join them, but she rejected them. Even if they wanted to recruit her now, the conditions they offered would not be much better than the Penglai Palace. She might as well stay here. After all, she was already very familiar with this place. Moreover, her teammates were suitable to develop here. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ren Ziheng could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Junior sister Bailey, I'm relieved to hear that. Otherwise, it would be terrible if you were to be recruited by other forces like this. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Senior brother Ren, don't worry. That won't happen. I'm guessing that the Palace Master and Master Long are also worried about this. If they know your answer, they will be relieved. Ren Ziheng smiled. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at Master Long's residence, they found that both Master Long and Yi Zihua were there. Greetings, Master Long, Instructor Yi. Everyone bowed. You're here. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Long Yanwei, and Yi Zihua's eyes lit up. After Bailey Hongzhuang handed the prescription to the Palace Master, they had already made the medicine immediately. After that, they also proved that the medicine had the effect of completely restraining the power of darkness, which made them very surprised. They did not expect that the biggest problem on Penglai Island for so long would be solved so easily. Even they found it hard to believe. The envoys from the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect are currently talking with the Palace Master in the conference hall. I'm sure that after they are done discussing the matters related to the evolution of the skeletons in the training grounds, they will call for you. Long Yanwei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said slowly, Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Master Long, they want to see me. Is it because of the prescription? That's right. This matter is simply too sensational. Thus, once it spread out, it could not be controlled. Right now, almost the entire Penglai Island is discussing this matter. This is especially true for the cultivators from the 3 great sects who have been to the training grounds. Originally, after your reminder that there might be something in the depths of the training ground that could cause the skeleton army to evolve, the Hall Master wanted to discuss this matter with the people of the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect. However, before he could send someone to invite them over, the other party had already heard the news and rushed over. So it seems, the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect are really fast. Zyron teased. It's normal for them to act so quickly. After all, they've been paying attention to this matter for a long time, Izihua said. In fact, the 3 major forces have been working hard to research medicine. The 100 Flowers Gate was the most famous, but the Red Moon sect and the Penglai Palace had also not given up on this matter. They did not expect that in the end. It was the Penglai Palace who coincidentally recruited Bailey Hongzhuang to develop a method. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were talking, Master Long's subordinates had already come to inform them. Seeing this, Long Yanwei and Izihua looked at each other before looking at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, come with us. All right, rest here for a while. We'll be back soon. Long Yanwei then looked at Di Beichun and the others. Chapter 4000. In the discussion hall, Emotion you looked at by Songming in admiration. There was no lack of envy on his face. Congratulations, Hall Master Bai. The effects of the healing medicine that you made previously had already amazed me. I never thought that you would have already developed a medicine that could completely restrain it in just a few months. It's truly amazing. I'm impressed. That's right, Hall Master Bai. Your speed is simply too fast. It's truly enviable. With Hall Master Bai's wise leadership, Penglai Palace's potential is truly limitless, Ren Fingni from the Crimson Moon sect said. Bai Songming could not help but smile when he heard their words. You're flattering me. I was only able to develop this medicine because I recruited a genius. This is all thanks to her. In the end, he had not helped Bailey Hongzhuang at all. This medicine was completely refined by Bailey Hongzhuang alone. He did not intend to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing Palace Master Bai's words, I'm really curious as to which genius doctor was able to find a way to break the seal in such a short period of time. Compared to her, our Crimson Moon sect is truly ashamed. Renfini could not help but sigh. When he first heard the news, he even felt that it was a lie. He did not dare to believe it at all. This was because they had been researching this problem for far too many years, but had never found a solution. Although Penglai Palace had indeed made significant progress, they were only able to restrain it after all, and could not completely break it. It had only been a few months, but Penglai Palace said that they had already developed a solution. This was simply too shocking. However, after he repeatedly confirmed it, everyone told him that this news had indeed come from Penglai Palace. Furthermore, it was extremely reliable. Only then did he believe it to be true. As a result, he decided to head to Penglai Palace almost immediately to find out more about it. Now that he had truly understood this news from Hall Master Bai, he could only feel exceptionally amazed. On one hand, they would be able to buy medicine that could restrain the power of darkness from now on. This was undoubtedly excellent news. On the other hand, Penglai Palace's reputation would definitely soar because of this incident. In the future, the distance between them and Penglai Palace would only increase. It was impossible to say that they were not envious. I've already sent someone to invite her over. She should be here soon. Bai Tsongming smiled faintly, but there was a complicated look in the depths of his eyes. If it was possible, he did not want Mo Xingyu to know about Bailey Hongzhuang. However, the other party kept mentioning this matter throughout their conversation. Out of consideration for their feelings, he could not just ignore it, so he could only agree. Over the years, he had often interacted with these two people, so he knew their style very well. He didn't need to think to know that they must be thinking about how to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang into their sect at this moment. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were too outstanding. Once Bailey Hongzhuang joined them, it would be tantamount to obtaining the prescription. In this way, they would no longer need to buy medicine from the Penlai Palace, which would be much more convenient. Chapter 4001. Bai Sangming was also rather worried about this. He did not know what kind of conditions the other party would offer to invite Bailey Hongzhuang. He also did not know if Bailey Hongzhuang would be moved. Bailey Hongzhuang had already become his most important disciple in the entire Penlai Palace. He did not want Bailey Hongzhuang to be poached away like this. Mo Xingyu's gaze would occasionally drift towards the door of the discussion hall. He was constantly thinking about what kind of conditions he should offer in order to attract the other party. Before he had come, the sect master had already given him an order. No matter what the conditions were, as long as he could bring Bailey Hongzhuang back, it would be a great merit. This was because this was the most important matter for their Hundred Flowers sect. Their Hundred Flowers sect had always been renowned on Penlai Island. Although no one had been able to create this medicine before, almost everyone was certain that once someone succeeded, that person would definitely come from the Hundred Flowers sect. Only then would the Hundred Flowers sect be worthy of its reputation and status. However, the cultivator who had created the medicine had come from the Penlai Palace. This was undoubtedly a great blow to their reputation. Many people suspected that their Hundred Flowers sect did not live up to their reputation. They could not even compare to the Penlai Palace, which was known for its strength. This made them feel extremely embarrassed. Now that things had developed to this point, the only thing they could do was to bring the cultivator back and reduce their influence. Moreover, they had researched this medicine for so long, so they naturally knew how difficult it was to create it. The fact that the other party had been able to create it so quickly proved that the other party was indeed a genius doctor. Once the other party was brought back, it would be a great thing for their Hundred Flowers sect. As a result, he had already decided that no matter what conditions the other party offered, he would do his best to satisfy them. Thinking of this, Mo Xingyu could not help but look at Ren Fengni. Ren Fengni probably had the same idea as him. With such a powerful opponent, he would probably have to pay an even greater price to bring the other party back. However, no matter what the price was, it would be worth it as long as the other party was successfully recruited. At that moment, the three people in the hall all had their own thoughts. Just as the three of them were thinking about what might happen, Bailey Hongzhuang, Master Long, and Izihua appeared in their line of sight. Seeing that, Mo Xingyu and Rin Feng and I looked at the three of them. They had seen Long Yanwei and Izihua before. Naturally, they knew that the remaining young lady was Bailey Hongzhuang. Both of them couldn't help but be shocked when they saw her. Even though they'd already heard from Bai Sangming that Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely young, they still couldn't help but be stunned when they saw her with their own eyes. Because he was simply too young. If they weren't mistaken, the woman in front of them was only in her 20s. She was actually able to develop a drug that the Hundred Flowers Gate had been unable to develop for so many years. That was simply too shocking. When they thought of this, the two of them could not help but look at Bai Sangming suspiciously. They even suspected that Bai Sangming deliberately found someone else to pretend to be Bailey Hongzhuang in order to fool them. Chapter 4002. She's Bailey Hongzhuang? Rin Fengni couldn't help but ask. That's right. She's Bailey Hongzhuang. You guys must be very surprised. Bai Sangming nodded with a smile on his face. Not just you guys. Even I found it hard to believe when I heard that she had developed the medicine. I even specially sent someone to check the efficacy of the medicine, but in the end, it was confirmed that the effect was real. Looking at Bai Sangming's expression, Rin Fengni and Mo Xingyu knew that he wasn't lying. They couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. Heroes indeed come from the young. Miss Bailey really can't judge a book by its cover. Mo Xingyu exclaimed. It's you? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Mo Xingyu in astonishment. She didn't expect to meet him again here. This was already the third time they had met. The first time they met was at the Devil Training Tower. At that time, she was having an alchemy competition with others and specially invited Mo Xingyu to be a witness. Since then, Mo Xingyu had already invited her to the 100 Flowers Gate, but she wasn't free at the moment. The second time they met was at the Golden Flame Auction House. Gao Hanshun and the rest had specially asked LV Dong to cause trouble for them, but they happened to meet Mo Xingyu at that time. It was Mo Xingyu who helped them resolve this problem. At that time, Mo Xingyu had also invited her again. At that time, she didn't want to take a look at the 100 Flowers Gate, but after being recruited by Long Yanwei to the Penglai Palace, she had never thought of going to the 100 Flowers Gate. She didn't expect to see Mo Xingyu again here today. She was very surprised. It turned out that Mo Xingyu's position in the 100 Flowers Gate was so high that it was beyond her imagination. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's astonished expression, Bai Cangming couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang, did you know Master Mo before? As soon as this was said, Rin Feng and I and the others' eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Even Mo Xingyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. He didn't remember when he had seen this lady before. Logically speaking, if he had seen this young lady's beauty before, he shouldn't have forgotten her. Unfortunately, even after searching through his memories, he still couldn't remember when he had seen this young lady before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, I've met you twice before, but not with my current identity. That's why Master Mo is so surprised to see me. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mo Xingyu's eyes flashed with doubt. He asked in surprise, Miss Bailey, when have we met before? I really can't remember. Master Mo, do you still remember D-Bay? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a faint smile. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Mo Xingyu's eyes suddenly changed. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes changed from the original doubt to a deep shock and surprise. Could it be that you're the young Master D from back then? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. That's right, I am. Mo Xingyu revealed a look of realization. I was wondering how you could have such exquisite medical skills at such a young age. So you're the young Master D from back then. I'm really blind. I didn't realize that you were actually a woman. Chapter 4003. He had already seen how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang was back in a magic training tower. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had always tactfully rejected him, he always believed that one day Bailey Hongzhuang would join their 100 Flowers Gate. After all, 100 Flowers Gate was the most suitable place for her to develop. However, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to join Penglai Palace, nor did he expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful to be able to develop such a medicine. If he had known earlier, he would have tried his best to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang back, no matter what price he had to pay. At that time, he only tried to recruit her many times, but did not offer too many generous conditions. This was because he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in alchemy were indeed amazing, but had not yet reached the point of shocking the heavens and earth. Therefore, he only tried to recruit her verbally. Now that he thought about it, it was too late for regrets. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. At that time, it was also because of some reasons that I disguised myself as a woman. I see, Mo Xingyu replied with a smile. Bai Cangming and the others had been watching the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Xingyu. Seeing how familiar the two were, everyone was very surprised. They did not expect the two to already know each other. Master Mo, so you already know each other. Ren Fengni could not help but say. Mo Xingyu nodded. We have known each other for nearly a year, but I did not expect her to be Bailey Hongzhuang. In that case, Master Mo knew Miss Bailey even earlier than she joined Penglai Palace. Ren Fengni immediately calculated. Then it's a pity that you did not recruit Miss Bailey back then. Ren Fengni's words also had a hint of ridicule. This time, Mo Xingyu and he came with the purpose of recruiting, but they did not expect Mo Xingyu to already know Bailey Hongzhuang and miss this opportunity. Presumably, the latter must be extremely depressed. Ren Fengni found it very funny. Mo Xingyu was already very depressed in his heart. At this moment, when he heard Ren Fengni's sarcasm, he could not help but feel even more unhappy. However, he did not show it on his face and just fell into silence. Long Yanwei and the others could not help but look at each other. They could understand Mo Xingyu's actions back then. If Long Yanwei had not taken a fancy to Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast, they would not have thought of recruiting Bailey Hongzhuang and the others back. If they did not recruit Bailey Hongzhuang, then it would naturally have nothing to do with their palace. Perhaps 100 Flowers Gate would have taken advantage of it. In that case, it was really a coincidence. Long Yanwei had really made a great contribution to Penglai Palace. Thinking of this, Izihua couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Fortunately, he had pulled Long Yanwei out with him that day. If it was only him there, he probably wouldn't have thought of recruiting them, not to mention that he didn't have enough conditions to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang, since you already know this Master Mo, I will not introduce him. Bai Songming slowly said, "Let me introduce you. This is Ren Fengni from Crimson Moon Sect, Master Ren." "Greetings, Master Ren." Bailey Hongzhuang bowed. Chapter 4004. Ren Fengni knew very well that if Bailey Hongzhuang was recruited into the Crimson Moon Sect, then with her ability, her status in the Crimson Moon Sect would definitely not be lower than his. Naturally, he would not be able to accept Bailey Hongzhuang's salute. "Master Ren, I'm just an ordinary disciple of the Penglai Palace. You're a master of the Crimson Moon Sect. It's only right for me to salute you," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. "Miss Bailey, you've made such a great contribution to the Penglai Palace, but you're still just an ordinary disciple of the Penglai Palace?" Ren Fengni's eyes flashed with disbelief. Clearly, he could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang did not receive any promotion after handing over the prescription to the Penglai Palace. This was a little too unbelievable. Logically speaking, with such a great contribution, her status would definitely be different whether it was in the 100 Flowers Gate or the Crimson Moon Sect. Could it be that it was so difficult for the Penglai Palace to raise their status? After Ren Fengni's reminder, Mo Xingyu's eyes lit up. He was very sure that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang could join the 100 Flowers Gate, then Bailey Hongzhuang's status in the 100 Flowers Gate would definitely not be comparable to an ordinary disciple. Just based on this point alone, they had already defeated the Penglai Palace. Bai Songming and the others also realized this problem and could not help but be shocked. They really did not expect to give Bailey Hongzhuang such a reward. "I'm also planning to raise Bailey Hongzhuang's status, but I haven't thought about what title to give her, so I haven't taken any action yet," Bai Songming hurriedly said. He did not want to give the other two forces any chance to take advantage of this. "I see." Ren Fengni smiled faintly. Even though Bai Songming concealed it very well, he could still see that this was a last-minute decision by Bai Songming. Originally, according to his judgment, Bailey Hongzhuang had made such a great contribution to Penglai Palace. Bai Songming should have given her a great reward. However, based on the current situation, Bai Songming didn't seem to have done that at all. This meant that Bailey Hongzhuang might not have received the corresponding reward at all. In that case, they would have a chance to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, the Penglai Palace was not inferior to the Crimson Moon Sect in any way. On the contrary, they were even more powerful. If Bai Songming had given Bailey Hongzhuang a generous reward, it would have been difficult for him to find a chance. Now, it seemed that he still had a lot of opportunities. He couldn't help but feel happy. "Lady Bailey, I heard that you have not been to Penglai Island for long. I believe you have not been to our Scarlet Moon Island. If you are free, why don't you come to our Scarlet Moon Sect? I can bring you around for a tour," Ren Feng and I said. "Lady Bailey, you promised me that you would come to our 100 Flower Island when you are free. Why don't you take this opportunity to travel around?" Mo Xingyu also said. It was not convenient for them to say many things in front of Bai Songming, and they could not directly state their conditions. If they could talk to him in detail alone, they would have a much higher chance of success. Chapter 4005. Bai Zongming felt a little helpless. He thought that since he was here, Imo Xingyu and Ren Funi wouldn't be able to poach Bailey Hongzhuang, even if they wanted to. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned, the two of them wouldn't have the chance to see Bailey Hongzhuang again. He didn't expect that the two of them would be so eager to poach Bailey Hongzhuang that they wanted to meet again. Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua couldn't help but look at each other and shook their heads with a sigh. Bailey Hongzhuang was now highly sought after by all the major forces. It wasn't strange for Mo Xingyu and Ren Fengni to behave like this. If they could snatch someone, they would probably want to snatch Bailey Hongzhuang back. Hearing Bai Zongming's words, Mo Xingyu couldn't help but smile and said, "Hall Master Bai, I just want to invite Miss Bailey to visit the 100 Flowers Gate. We have many doctors and alchemists who want to interact with Miss Bailey. This kind of interaction is also beneficial to the improvement of both sides' medical skills." Bai Zongming waved his hand stubbornly. "It's not the first time we've met. I know your character very well. This kind of pretense won't work on me. Anyway, Bailey Hongzhuang is a member of our Penglai Palace. You don't have to have any other thoughts. I won't let her go." Bai Zongming made his attitude clear. Bailey Hongzhuang was the cultivator he valued the most now. He definitely wouldn't let other forces have the chance to poach her. He could naturally give other forces the same treatment. In short, as long as he was still the Hall Master of Penglai Palace, he wouldn't let anyone poach Bailey Hongzhuang. "Hall Master Bai, we didn't say that we wanted to poach her. It's just that Miss Bailey is so powerful. We all want to make friends with her." Ren Funi also spoke up. "We have a lot of people in Penglai Palace. If Bailey Hongzhuang wants to make friends, there are plenty of people. Your Red Moon Island is too far away. Why don't you let her stay in Penglai Palace? If there is a chance, I will personally take her to Red Moon Island." Bai Zongming raised his brows, and his attitude was extremely unyielding. He clearly expressed that he didn't want them to have any ideas. He would absolutely not give them the chance to poach Bailey Hongzhuang. When Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua saw this scene, they immediately felt that it was funny. Sure enough, when the palace master became tough, no matter what you said, he would always have the same attitude. Presumably, the other party would feel helpless when facing such a Bai Zongming, right? Long Yanwei could not help but sigh. These guys could be considered to have felt what he usually felt. This was the palace master of the Penglai Palace. Bailey Hongzhuang stood quietly at the side. From the looks of the situation, it seemed that she didn't need to answer anything. The palace master had completely rejected them on her behalf. This was good too. He didn't have to think about how to reject Mo Xingyu and Ren Fengni. Since the palace master's attitude was so unyielding, the two of them didn't need to think to know her attitude. Hall Master Bai, Mo Xingyu and Ren Fengni still didn't give up. They came with a mission this time. If they could complete it, they would definitely be rewarded greatly when they returned. If they couldn't complete it, it would be considered a failure. "Master Mo, Master Ren, you don't usually come to our Penglai Palace often. Since I'm here today, why don't I take you around?" Chapter 4006. The words that Ren Funi and Mo Xingyu were about to say were stopped by Bai Zongming. Upon seeing this, Ren Funi said, "That's good too. Why don't Miss Bailey come with us?" Bailey Hongzhuang was just about to answer when she saw Bai Zongming give her a look. She instantly understood and laughed in her heart. "Thank you for your kind intentions, Master Run, but I still have to go back and cultivate, so I won't be going with you. I believe that the two masters will definitely have fun with the Hall Master around." Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Bai Zongming's eyes were filled with satisfaction. Bailey Hongzhuang was really smart to be able to understand with just a look. Seeing that Mo Xingyu was about to say something, Yi Zihua hurriedly stood out and said, "Yes, Long Yanwei, and I will also tour with the two of you. We will definitely make sure that you enjoy yourselves." Bailey Hongzhuang, "Since you still have things to do, you can go back first," said Bai Zongming. "Yes." Bailey Hongzhuang responded and cupped her hands towards Mo Xingyu and Ren Fengni. "Master Mo, Master Run, I will take my leave." Her voice fell, and Bailey Hongzhuang turned and left. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang left just like that, Mo Xingyu and Rin Fengni could only swallow their words as they felt extremely helpless. Bai Cangming's attitude really left them with no chance to take advantage of. They definitely did not have a chance today, so they could only think of a way in the future. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to Long Yanwei's residence, Bewitching and the rest immediately noticed her figure. "Hongzhuang, you're back," said Bewitching. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded. "Yes. Didn't you just leave not long ago? Why are you back so soon?" When Xiren was a little surprised. "Didn't Master Long and Teacher Yi come back with you?" "There's nothing for me to do, so I naturally came back very quickly. However, Master Long and the rest have to accompany the tour and probably won't be back anytime soon. Why don't we go back first?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She clearly knew that with the Hall Master, Master Long, and Teacher Yi around, Master Mo and Master Ren would not have the time to look for her. She was also happy to have some peace and quiet. She did not have any thoughts of joining other forces, not to mention that the Hall Master had never mistreated her. Since Master was to say it to return to Bailey Hongzhuang to meet her, to meet Master. CTO Hongzhuang's to you to meet her, meet. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "It's just as we expected." Everyone immediately understood. "I knew it. The people from the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect definitely wanted to recruit you, but you rejected them." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "You didn't reject them?" "I didn't need to reject them. The Hall Master had already shut them up." "Haha, the Hall Master is really amazing. I'm sure the people from the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon sect were also very depressed." Everyone chuckled. Although they did not witness it with their own eyes, the situation must have been very exciting. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Hall Master's sleeping quarters because Bai Cangming had said that he would bring her to the treasury to pick a treasure. After knowing that Bai Cangming had a treasury, Bailey Hongzhuang was very curious as to what kind of treasure the Hall Master would keep. Chapter 4007. When he saw that Yi Zihua and Long Yanwei had arrived, astonishment surfaced in Bai Cangming's eyes. He asked, "Why have the two of you come as well?" Yi Zihua chuckled. "Hall Master, I've long heard that you have a secret treasury, but I've never had the chance to see it. Since Bailey Hongzhuang has come to the treasury to choose, we naturally want to feast our eyes on it. However, Hall Master, you don't have to worry. We're only here to take a look. We won't take the opportunity to take anything away." Long Yanwei maintained his smile at the side. Although he did not say anything, his attitude was very obvious. It was obvious that his thoughts were the same as Yi Zihua's. Normally, the Hall Master loved to enter his secret room. No matter what treasures he had, the Hall Master already knew about them. However, he had never had the chance to see the Hall Master's treasury, so he was very curious. Now that he had the chance, he naturally wanted to see what treasures were in the Hall Master's treasury that could make him act so mysterious. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the palace lord helplessly. She had just gone out today and directly bumped into Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua. At first, when she saw the strange smiles on their faces, she didn't understand what they meant, but now she finally understood. As it turned out, the two of them wanted to use her as a cover to take a look at the Hall Master's treasury. Bai Cangming glanced at Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua as his expression was filled with helplessness. "From the looks of it, if I don't let you see it today, you won't leave?" Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua only had brilliant smiles on their faces. They had already made up their minds. No matter what, they had to see the Hall Master's treasury with their own eyes today. Seeing this, Bai Cangming waved his hand speechlessly. "Forget it. On account of Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll let you see it today." As soon as these words came out, Yi Zihua and Long Yanwei's eyes lit up. "Today, we can finally feast our eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is all because of your face." "Instructor, you must be joking. How can I compare to your reputation? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Long Yanwei waved his hand. What Izihua said is the truth. Previously, we have said more than once that we wanted to come and take a look, but the palace master has never agreed. If it weren't for you, we don't know when we would have the chance to meet. That's right. If it were any other day, I wouldn't let you two see it. Bai Cangming's face was full of approval. Who told Bailey Hongzhuang to be a great hero of our Penglai Palace? I only agreed because I wanted to reward her. Hearing the palace master's words, Bailey Hongzhuang secretly sighed in her heart. It seemed that after Mo Xingyu and Rin Feng Ni's visit yesterday, her position in the palace master's heart had become even higher. By the way, Bailey Hongzhuang, after Mo Xingyu and the others reminded me yesterday, I just remembered that you have made such great contributions to the Penglai Palace. It's not too suitable for you to be an ordinary disciple. Why don't I give you the title of an instructor in the field of medicine? Bai Cangming looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had neglected this point previously, and now it was time to make up for it. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was still very young, she could be called a master with her attainments in the field of medicine. Chapter 4008. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand and said, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Home Master. However, there's no need for that. I'll just be an ordinary disciple." It was great that her status in Penglai Palace had risen, but she still had to form a team with everyone. It would be inconvenient if she suddenly had the title of a mentor. Moreover, she didn't really care about these empty titles. After she handed over the prescription, she believed that no one in Penglai Palace would look for trouble with her. Why? Bai Cangming looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. If it was an ordinary cultivator, they would definitely not give up such an opportunity. He never expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually choose to reject it. It was truly beyond his expectations. Hall Master, Bailey Hongzhuang usually forms a team with everyone to gain experience. If she has the title of a mentor, wouldn't it become a mentor bringing a disciple to gain experience? That would be interesting. Izihua couldn't help but laugh. I see. Bai Cangming finally understood. However, you should still receive the treatment you deserve. Why don't I greet the mentors in Penglai Palace? You can enjoy the treatment of a mentor in Penglai Palace, but you won't have the title of a mentor. In the future, you'll be treated with the same status as the mentors in Penglai Palace. What do you think? That's not a bad idea. Long Yanwei expressed his agreement. Bailey Hongzhuang, what do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Thank you, Hall Master. All right, let's go take a look at the treasury first and choose something suitable for you. As soon as Bai Cangming finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that the wall in front of her suddenly opened, revealing a passage behind it. So, this was where the Hall Master's treasury was located. Bai Cangming walked at the front, while Bailey Hongzhuang followed closely behind. Long Yanwei and Izihua followed one after another. After they walked in, the door closed again and returned to its original state. Bailey Hongzhuang walked down the stairs bit by bit. She only saw the situation before her clearly when she reached the bottom. This was a very simple secret room. There were several cabinets inside, and some things were placed on top of the cabinets. There weren't many things, but their value was extremely shocking. There were some items that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know what they were, but she saw some heavenly treasures that couldn't even be seen in auctions. Even in her previous life, she rarely had the chance to see such a treasure. As for the other items, she didn't recognize some of them. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. The Hall Master's treasures were indeed extraordinary. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was sighing, Long Yanwei and Izihua's faces also flashed with deep astonishment. Palace Master, I really didn't expect you to have collected so many treasures. Aren't you hiding them a little too deeply? Bai Cangming seemed to be extremely indifferent instead, and he said as if it was a matter of course, if I don't hide them, they might be dug out by all of you at any time. Hall Master, this should be used to describe you who always comes to my secret room, right? Ahem. Bai Cangming coughed dryly, and his gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. He said, Bailey Hongzhuang, you can take away any item here, no matter which one you like. Chapter 4009. That's right. Don't stand on ceremony. You must get the best one. Yizihua chimed in. Bai Cangming glanced at Yizihua and Long Yanwei. These two fellows had always wanted to take advantage of him, but they never had the chance. Now, he could only let Bailey Hongzhuang take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of him. However, he was perfectly willing to do this for Bailey Hongzhuang. This was because the prescription that Bailey Hongzhuang gave him was a very significant treasure. Not only was it a great treasure, but it also carried Bailey Hongzhuang's trust. Therefore, he felt that it was worth it to give Bailey Hongzhuang any reward. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes lit up when they saw the treasures in the room. Although the room was decorated very simply, they knew that none of the treasures were simple. Master, what kind of treasures do you want to choose? Xiao He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. Do you want to choose medicinal herbs? We can help you look for them. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head when she heard that. Let's see if there are any other treasures other than medicinal herbs first. If you see any powerful treasures, you can tell me. She realized that there were many things that she did not recognize other than medicinal herbs and weapons. She had to understand them well. At the very least, it was good to gain some knowledge. The world 1,000 years later would definitely have improved a lot compared to 1,000 years ago. There were many things that she had never seen before. Since she was already living here, she naturally had to understand it well. It would definitely be helpful for her in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to the front of a sharp sword. Even though she was just standing in front of it, she could feel the sharpness of the sword. This sword is known as the Icy Frost Sword. It is made from 1,000-year cold steel and has an innate ice attribute. When it attacks a cultivator, it will produce a type of ice power that will invade the cultivator's body and cause great destruction. At the same time, it will also greatly increase the cultivator's combat power. Normally, some expensive weapons would also have such an attribute bonus. The reason why I kept this Frost Sword is because its ice attribute is invasive, as if it can grow. Once it invades a cultivator's body, it will quickly spread, and no one will be able to stop it in time, Bai Cangming explained. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of amazement. This sword actually had such great power, it was truly incomparably powerful. This armor is called the Qin Tortoise Shell. Its defensive capabilities are extremely powerful. Cultivators below the 5th level of Astral Brilliance will basically have no effect on it. It can protect the user's life. Even cultivators above the 5th level of Astral Brilliance will be able to defend themselves very well if their attacks land on the armor. Unless the difference in strength between the two parties is too great, there is a possibility that the Qin Tortoise Shell will shatter. However, before it shatters, it will definitely be able to help the cultivator block a fatal attack. Furthermore, when it shatters, it will also trigger a counterattack, allowing the cultivator to have a chance to escape. Bai Cangming understood that Bailey Hongzhuang did not understand these things, so he immediately introduced the uses of these items one by one. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two heard about these abnormal abilities, they could not help but sigh in their hearts. As expected of the items collected by the Hall Master, each of these effects was more abnormal than the last. Chapter 4010. Even if an ordinary cultivator were to obtain such an armor, he would not be able to cause much damage to a cultivator below the 5th level of Astral Radiance. If such a treasure appeared in an auction, it would definitely be sold for a sky-high price. However, although other armors would often appear in auctions, none of them could be compared to this Qin Tortoise Shell. Bai Cangming's eyes were filled with pride when he saw Yizihua's astonished expression. I was also very surprised when I first saw this armor. This is the work of an unknown master, but its prowess is far from what an ordinary armor maker can compare to. The Palace Master's collection is really rich. If we did not see it with our own eyes, we would not have known that there were so many treasures. Long Yanwei could not help but sigh. Usually, he basically put all his attention on his contracted beasts and did not pay much attention to these things. It turned out that the palace master had collected so many other treasures. In any case, I'm the palace master. If I don't have any wealth, it would be too inappropriate. Bai Songming said. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the conversation between Bai Songming and the other two and felt that it was interesting. The palace master's relationship with Lord Long and the others was really good. If it was any other faction, no one would speak to the palace master like this. However, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua did not have any scruples in front of the palace master. It was clear that the three of them were good friends in private. Master, what do you think of the cold frost sword? Xiao He could not help but ask. It's very powerful. Do you want or not? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Why? The cold frost sword is indeed very powerful, but I am not proficient in the ice attribute. Furthermore, the flowing light sword's power is not bad either. It is still suitable for me, so I am not in a hurry to change it. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Master, since the Qian tortoise shell is so powerful, do you want it? Xiao Bai could not help but ask. No need. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips. Although this Qian tortoise shell is very powerful, it's only useful for cultivators below the 5th rank. Although I'm only at the 1st rank, I believe that in the future I'll definitely surpass the 5th rank. At that time, this Qian tortoise shell won't be of much use. If it was in the past, the Qian tortoise shell would indeed be very attractive to her. However, the difference in strength between the two was not great now, and she did not have such an urgent desire to obtain it. There were so many treasures in the palace lord's treasury. Since she was already here, she had to choose a treasure that would be most helpful to her. Master, what kind of treasure do you want? I have no idea. Let's take a look first. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes swept over the treasures one by one. Although there were many treasures, she wasn't a greedy person. She only wanted to find the most helpful treasure. When Bai Songming and the other two saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was slowly choosing and did not seem to be in a hurry, a smile appeared on their faces. From the beginning to the end, they had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang's dazzled expression like that of an ordinary disciple. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared very calm and rational. Bailey Hongzhuang's mentality is indeed not comparable to that of an ordinary disciple. So many treasures have dazzled me, but she is still so calm. Chapter 4011. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, it would be hard for you to believe that someone as young as her could develop a medicine that can restrain the power of darkness, right? Long Yanwei teased. Yi Zihua could not help but nod. That's true, but I believe that I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Both of you should feel the same way, right? Bai Songming and Long Yanwei could not help but look at each other. Both of them smiled without saying a word. In fact, not to mention them, probably no one in the entire Penglai Island would be able to guess that. It could only be said that Bailey Hongzhuang could not be judged by common sense. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the various treasures. She had to admit that these treasures were indeed very tempting. There were a few treasures that she could not take her eyes off. For a moment, she could not even decide which treasure to keep. In the face of so many treasures, it was a very painful thing to make a choice. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was hesitating about which treasure to choose, her gaze suddenly fell on a black stone in the corner. If it wasn't for the fact that the black stone was placed on top of the cabinet, she would have completely ignored it. This treasury looked like it was frequently taken care of. Bailey Hongzhuang was certain that Bai Songming did not place the black stone here by accident. This meant that the black stone should be a treasure as well. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but walk in front of the black stone. As she got closer to the stone, the look in her eyes quietly changed. That was because she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the stone. This sense of familiarity felt as if it was born to belong to her. It came inexplicably, but she could not bear to part with it. How strange! Bailey Hongzhuang was secretly surprised. She had never seen such a stone before. So why did she feel such a sense of familiarity? It was too strange. Bai Zongming also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. After hearing what she said, he thought that Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was strange to place the black stone here. He immediately explained, "I found this stone by accident. Until now, I still don't know what it's used for. However, I'm sure that it's not an ordinary stone because it's filled with a mysterious and powerful energy." Long Yanwei and Yizihua could not help but walk over when they heard Bai Zongming's words. They sized up the stone in front of them. The stone was pitch black and only the size of a fist. It did not look eye-catching at all. If it was thrown into a pile of stones, no one would notice it. However, after sensing it carefully, they realized that it was indeed, as by Zongming's words, it was filled with a rather strange energy. "Hall Master, have you asked the others if they recognize this stone?" Long Yanwei could not help but ask. Bai Zongming nodded. "When I obtained this stone back then, I specifically asked someone about it, but no one knew. Everyone felt that this stone should be a treasure, but no one could tell what it's used for. I've studied it before and tried all kinds of methods to find out what it does. Unfortunately, this stone didn't have any reaction from beginning to end." Chapter 40:12. Even Bai Zongming could not figure out the use of the stone, which showed how mysterious it was. She felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the stone. She believed that it was some sort of guidance from the unseen world, and she believed that she might be able to discover the use of the stone. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately said, "Hall Master, I want this stone." The 3 humans and 2 beasts were stunned when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They never thought that she would actually want this black stone. "You want this stone?" Bai Zongming's voice was filled with surprise. There were many treasures in the treasury, and he would not be surprised if Bailey Hongzhuang wanted any of them. However, he found it strange that Bailey Hongzhuang had taken a fancy to this stone. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Yes. May I know if the Hall Master will agree?" "Bailey Hongzhuang, have you really thought it through?" Long Yanwei could not help but remind her. "If you choose this, you won't be able to choose anything else." "That's right. Although this stone looks very special, it's useless if we don't know its specific use. You have to think it through." Yizihua also spoke up. Many cultivators would be interested in some unknown items, but in reality, it was very easy to lose such a bet. If they could discover its true use, they might have profited, but it might also be useless and a waste of an opportunity. Most importantly, it would be terrible if he couldn't find a way to use this thing after bringing it back. In comparison, there were many treasures here, and many of them were useful to Bailey Hongzhuang. "I've already thought it through." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled in response. She then turned to Bai Zongming. "Hall Master, I want this stone." Bai Zongming nodded when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's determined look. "Since you've already thought it through, you may take it. However, if you find that it's useless after you bring it back to study, you can also come to me to exchange it for something." "Thank you, Hall Master." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with gratitude. She knew that the Hall Master had said this because he was worried that she would regret it in the future. Therefore, he had taken the initiative to say this so that she would not be embarrassed to exchange it with him later. Otherwise, even if she brought the stone back, she would not have the chance to exchange it for other treasures if it was useless. This showed the Hall Master's tolerance and generosity towards her. However, she still believed that she would not regret taking the stone back. This was because this familiar feeling made her feel that this stone was definitely related to her in some way. Although she did not know what kind of connection it was, she believed that she would figure it out sooner or later. After all, since it was not an ordinary rock, it must have its uses. Just that, Bailey Hongzhuang was the Hall Master to Bai and the Hall Master of Bai Zongming's. Long Yanwei and Bai Zongming clearly could not understand Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. They were even more certain that Bailey Hongzhuang would come to the Hall Master to exchange it for other treasures very soon. However, they could just treat it as the Hall Master lending the stone to Bailey Hongzhuang to study for a day. It would not affect anything. Chapter 4013. Hong Zhuang. After you saw the palace master's treasury, did you find that there were many treasures inside? Shangguan Yingying was the first to speak. She was really curious about what the palace master's treasury looked like. Unfortunately, they did not have the chance to see it with their own eyes. However, just by thinking about it, they knew that the items collected by the palace master of Penglai Palace would definitely not be simple. It would definitely dazzle and broaden one's horizons. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and nodded. There are indeed many treasures, and they are all very powerful. These are treasures that can't be seen even in many auctions. Hearing you say this, I'm even more curious. I really want to see it with my own eyes. There will be a chance in the future. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. Since they are all treasures, Hong Zhuang, you must have also picked an amazing treasure, right? When Xiren's eyes were filled with excitement. Naturally, we won't be able to see the palace master's treasury. However, let us see the treasure that you brought back. All right. Bailey Hong Zhuang's face was filled with a bright smile. She immediately took out the black stone from her cosmos bag. Everyone was looking at Bailey Hong Zhuang curiously. They only wanted to know what kind of treasure Bailey Hong Zhuang had brought back this time. However, when they saw the item that Bailey Hong Zhuang had taken out, everyone could not help but be stunned. Then, a strong sense of astonishment flashed in their eyes. What is this? Shangguan Yingying was stunned. A black stone? That's right, that's it. Bailey Hong Zhuang replied. You're lying to us, right? Ren Ziheng could not help but speak out. The treasures collected by the palace master were definitely not simple. How could he have collected a stone? Yes, Hong Zhuang, we all want to see the treasure that you brought back. Don't tease us now. Ren Zimei also spoke out. Seeing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang calmly said, I'm not teasing you. This is the treasure that I chose from the palace master. Looking at Bailey Hong Zhuang's serious expression, everyone could not help but be stunned. Their stunned expressions were filled with disbelief. Is this true? You picked this black stone from the palace master? Shangguan Yingying said in disbelief. When Xiren picked up the stone and looked at it carefully, he asked, Hong Zhuang, is there anything special about this stone? There seems to be a mysterious and powerful force in this stone, but so far I don't know how to use it. But I think it is really special, so I brought it back. Bailey Hong Zhuang explained with a smile. You don't know how to use it? Chu Jinfeng immediately grasped the key point in Bailey Hong Zhuang's words. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded gently, her expression filled with helplessness. Indeed, we don't know how to use it yet. The palace master has not studied it yet. Hong Zhuang, you chose such a good opportunity to pick such a black stone. Isn't this too wasteful? Shangguan Yingying could not help but look up to the sky and sigh. She thought that Bailey Hong Zhuang would bring back some amazing treasure. Who would have thought that she would bring back such an inconspicuous stone? It was too much of a pity. Bewitching, you have to take care of your wife. This is too much of a waste of opportunity. Xiren spoke out. Chapter 4014. Listening to Bewitching's doting words, Bailey Hong Zhuang's smile became even more blissful. Yes, as long as I like it. Looking at Bewitching and Bailey Hong Zhuang's sweet faces, when Xiren could not help but shake his head helplessly. TSK, TSK, TSK. Look at these two people showing off their love. No one else can do this. Why? When Xiren, you have a wife. Could it be that watching them show off their love will provoke you? Ren Zimei chuckled and teased. Xiren shook his head and spread out his hands. Of course I can't stand it. I'm just speaking my mind on behalf of Senior Brother Ren and the others. Junior Brother 1, this is your opinion. Don't drag me into it. Ren Ziheng said helplessly. Big Brother, Junior Brother 1 has a point. Ren Zimei walked to Ren Ziheng's side. You have been in Penglai Palace for so many years. Logically speaking, you should find me a sister-in-law. Otherwise, you will always be alone. As your sister, I am worried for you. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes fell on Ren Ziheng. Senior Brother Ren, no matter what, you are still a distinguished and elegant person. In this Penglai Palace, you're also a senior brother figure. Logically speaking, There should be many junior sisters who are interested in you. Could it be that your standards are too high? Why are you still single until now? When Xiren teased, Bewitching also nodded. It is indeed time to find someone. Seeing that everyone had shifted the question to him, Renziheng was surprised and somewhat helpless. You little girl, are you going to get married now and don't want your big brother anymore? Oh. Bewitching raised his eyebrows and looked at Chu Jinfeng and Renzime teasingly. So, it is because something good is about to happen. Chu Jinfeng was slightly stunned. Obviously, he did not expect the topic to change to this. However, he quickly calmed down. As long as Zime and senior brother agree, I have no problem at all. Ren Ziheng also sighed. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Big brother, what are you talking about? I just want you to find a sister-in-law. Don't tease me like this. Ren Zime's pretty face blushed, and her cheeks puffed up. Her eyebrows were full of shyness. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also laughed secretly. Since Ren Zime and Chu Jinfeng's relationship had broken, the relationship between the two had progressed rapidly. If this continued, it would not be long, it would become a good marriage. After everyone left, Bailey Hongzhuang began to carefully study the black stone in front of her. He could not help but smile. He said. He could not help but smiled and said, Wife, do you think there is something special about this black he? Or you have discovered you? Based on his understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, if she did not have some special thoughts about this stone, she would not have chosen to bring it back. Since she brought it back, she must have discovered something. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I did not discover the use of this stone. According to the palace master, he had found many people to study the use of this stone, but they did not discover anything. It should not be that simple. Hearing this, Bewitching only looked at Bailey Hongzhuang lovingly, waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to say her reason for doing so. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.